Boom. Look at this. Holy mackerel, dude.
Oh, shit.
Everybody's here just to see you, Matt.
Waleed's here. Look, there's Ezra Chase.
Love it. All right,
Everybody's
we're gonna mute
here.
that. If you're at church, please mute yourself.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, guys, please, we're gonna keep everybody muted. Matt and I are gonna jam for a little bit. We're gonna let some people in. In the meantime, while everybody's filtering in, can everybody comment in the chat just where they're from? And then also drop a one or a one if you're on an offer at the moment, and a two if you are not on an offer yet. Would just kind of like to get a feel for the room, where everybody's from, and what they're doing in the day to day right now.
I don't know if I believe Ezra Chase is too. I mean, this guy looks like a noob. No, I'm just kidding. Love you, Ezra.
And there we go. Do a little pin. God, Matt, you're so much better looking than me, dude. This is not fair, dude.
I could have showed up in a wife beater, but I didn't think that'd be
I
on.
know. I was hoping you kept the wife beater on, to be honest. All right, cool. So we got UK, Canada, Istanbul, Egypt, quite a few Canadians. Zimbabwe, Kenya, Philippines. All right, we're pretty balanced ones and twos here. So I'd say half the room's on an offer. Kai's jumping in. Philippines, Denmark. Lovely. Very diverse crew. Thanks for coming up, everybody. What we're gonna do, we have a little bit of a framework here, but also we're not super rigid, right, Matt? So we're a little flexible. Again, if you're coming in, please mute yourself when you come in. That'd be fantastic.
EP par CP, wow.
Say what? Right. Bill, mute me, pal.
Yeah.
So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna start off with like very quick, brief intros on me and Matt. I think you guys probably know us a little bit. I don't know if you guys know our backstories. Then we're gonna go through really like a couple pillars that we want to talk about. One, how do you structure your calendar to be a high performer? Two, how do you master the interview process in the high ticket space? And then three, how do you practice really like a high performer? How do you practice like a future closer? Then from there, if we have time, we're going to open it up for some Q&A, and we'll see how long that goes. I know I've blocked out like the next 30 minutes beyond the top of the hour. I think Matt has as well. Definitely do not miss your team meetings. If you need to get to a meeting at the top of the hour, please honor that and be there on time. Also, if you're behind on projections and you're in this meeting at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday, then I suggest you get on the phones and hit your projections. No, I'm just kidding. But let's kick it off, Matt. Why don't you give the room a quick background on yourself, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, man. Let's dredge up the dirty, ugly past, I guess. So before I got into the high ticket room space, I was doing construction and bartending, right? So like I was like, make money online, what? Like that was like totally where I came in from this. And it was pre-COVID at the time. And I quit my bartending job, quit my construction job, and I tried being and this was a long time ago. I don't normally talk about this, so you're getting a couple extra goodies here, but I tried to take
You're talking like 1980s or
yeah, just about the timeline that Noah got off the ark. So essentially I gave a shot at trying to be an online like gaming streamer, Call of Duty guy. And I was like, hey, like what's this look like? And I made a couple of bucks doing that. It was a good time, nothing crazy. And then I went from there to learning about appointment setting. And I got hired with a company that helped people start disinfecting businesses, right? So it was like home cleaning for restaurants and warehouses, like all this kind of stuff. And I was like very lost. I had no clue like what I was doing. Like, I was the worst appointment setter on the face of the planet by far. I went on to be with that company for about a year because during the middle of my career with them, they transitioned to a COVID disinfecting company because COVID struck. Right. So we started teaching people how to start COVID disinfecting businesses. So I did that for about 6 months. And then from there, I moved on to, I don't know if some of you guys know who Rob Bailey is. He sold Swass Agency. I worked with him for about a year. He helped people start digital marketing agencies. I don't know if you guys know maybe Aaron Martinez. He's the guy that does the Remote Closing Academy podcast for Cole Gordon, etc. And Aaron and I worked together there on that offer, coaching agency owners on how to start their businesses. Which was a blast. And I got to see kind of like the other side of the veil as far as like how difficult that was to start a digital marketing agency and like all the pitfalls to that. And so I was like, I'm gonna keep setting appointments, you know? So I kept on setting appointments. I moved on to bounce around between a couple of different offers, 3 or 4 different offers where I didn't actually even make any money. So I had been making about decent money for the first 2 years of working in the space. And then I hit this slump for about 5 months where I wasn't making any money, bouncing around between a couple of different teams. And then
This was what, 2020 at this point?
Yeah.
Late 2020?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so then I jumped onto a team where we helped people start building passive income, or sorry, I jumped onto a team that helped people start multifamily properties, right? We like guaranteed them like one property in less than a year. Dove into that for about 3-4 months, made good money there, and eventually we blew up the fulfillment where, you know, you sell too much of it and then the marketing team is like, we're not going to run ads for like the next 3 months and then we'll restart. And I was like, well, I'm not going to sit around for 3 months. So I went on to another offer that was helping people start an ATM business, right? Building passive income through an ATM company, right?
Paul Alex?
No, not that one. No, that's a big one, but it was a different one.
Okay.
And from there, I set for about 2 or 3 months. I got promoted to closer. I beat the top closer on the team in the first month that I was closing, and then they promoted me to the sales manager. Continued on with that role for about 4 months, and then we blew up the fulfillment there as well. And so then I had been a sales manager, I'd been a setter, I had been a closer, and then I was like, you know what, like, what am I going to do next? And Cole Gordon was hiring appointment setters, and I was like, you know what, like, it'd be fun to go back to appointment setting. I kind of like that lifestyle a little bit more than closing. Like, there's a little bit more freedom in the schedule. You get to be a little bit more like pirate rogue version versus like every day with closing, you had to like show up and be there on time and all this stuff. So I kind of like the looser lifestyle. And so I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna go over here and set for Cole Gordon. I set for there for about 6 months before I got promoted into a fulfillment role where I started coaching setters and closers for Cole. And I coached about, it was like a little over 3,300 people there in less than a year. Then I went on to manage one of Cole's appointment setting teams for a short time. I think that was only about 3 or 4 months. And then I moved to Springs Rejuvenation, where I was their outbound director. They had 5 different offers, and I was the appointment setter manager for each one of their offers for a little over a year. They generated a little bit over 21 million in outbound sales from the center teams I was a part, which was awesome. Like, that was incredible. And then now, present day, I am managing one appointment setting team and managing setter the closer.
Nice, dude.
Yeah.
Nice. Not too shabby for an ex-bartender.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Right on, man. Well, what about you? What's
Cool.
what were you doing before you got into this?
Bro, I was fucking teaching English in Thailand from
What?
2016 to 2019. I graduated university 2015, so I'm 32. I'm basically a dinosaur. Probably older than most of the people in this room, I would imagine, which is silly. But yeah, I sold copiers my first job out of college. I was 2015. Hated it. Did decent, but I hated it. I would literally wear a suit to work every day. I would drive into my territory in a company car that was about 40 miles away from the office. I would get out of my car and I would literally knock on doors and like essentially do like an in-person cold call discovery session with like a receptionist at like an office. And I was trying to just gather information to literally get like either like the CFO's info or the COO's info or like the manager's info or whoever it was that I needed to go then drive back to the office 40 miles, call them, try to set an appointment with them, then drive out in person again to have the appointment to sell them a fucking copier, bro. That I was getting 2% commissions on 8K deals, basically. So that was my first sales job in 2015. Hated that. ended up moving to Thailand, screwed around for like my mid-20s, taught English, scuba dived. Ended up in late 2018 starting to get hit by ads by a guy named James Hopkins, who sold me a $2,000 course on how to have a fractional marketing company, or like a not fractional freelance marketing company. Did that for a little bit, literally had $1,980 in my bank account. This was October 2018. The course was $19.97. He gave me a $17 discount, but took every last dollar that I had to my name at the time. Literally. So I did that. Ended up moving back to the States in May 2019. Was running my own freelance marketing business. Was doing okay, making like 3-4K a month. I was a god in Thailand because that's like top 1%. Come back to America, I'm like, holy shit, dude, I'm poor. So summer 2019, Traffic and Funnels, who is a company who's no longer around, they shut down in 2022. That's where Cole got his start selling, or one of the places he got his start selling. I went through a sales challenge that they were doing. Taylor Welch and Eli Wild were teaming up on like a 21-day sales challenge. I went through that. Then Josh Johnson was the setter manager at TF at the time. He hired me on. I started with TF in September 2019. Moved down to Nashville in November that year, worked in the office. I was there for 2 years. The first 18 months, I was just a producer. I broke every record at that company. I, did over $5 million in sales in the 23 months that I was there. 18 months in, I got promoted to like the outbound manager, and I was a player coach. So the team that I was managing was doing like 1.5 mil a month. Ended up leaving that place. COVID was great to us. It wasn't good for the reputation, though. It was great for the sales, not good for the reputation because fulfillment wasn't great. So I left there in September 2021. Thought I wanted to be done with the high ticket space. So I dabbled in like real estate wholesaling. I bought fucking Ethereum at $4,800 in December 2021, the absolute tippy top. So got wrecked there on crypto. And then that spring, like February 2022, a bunch of random people were just hitting me up to consult them on their sales teams. I got into that. Then I teamed up with David Melman, who started Win It Sales. We started doing fractional sales management. And then last year, we ended up transitioning out of the business, and now I'm the CEO of Win It Sales. And we run 8 sales teams, doing a little over $2 million a month. We've had some $3 million months with our roster. We manage about 40, 50 salespeople across those 8 teams. And yeah, life is good. So that's the story, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, what's your, I saw a question drop in the chat. How much have you made so far? Do you even have like a guesstimation on how much you've made since you started?
I don't know. I really don't make that much money now, to be honest. Like I made like 240 last year. Like 20K is normal for me. But I also like, dude, like I just was in Asia for 3 weeks, and like I didn't work while I was there. And it's like I don't really take calls on Fridays, and like I'm going to play golf in 2 hours. And it's like I have a really solid team that takes care of things well. And like for me, I'm not willing to sacrifice like the real grind that's required to get like to the 40, 50. And I also just don't want the stress of like a massive business like, like a Cole is willing to do personally. So I'm happy with like 20. I've had 30K months. I know that like if I freaking grinded my face off and worked 60 to 80 hours a week, I could make 40 to 50. I'm just not willing to make that sacrifice. I also feel like I could make more money just straight up closing on a good offer than I do running my business. But I prefer the strategy and the high level stuff and the management and the leadership over the day-to-day grind of the phones.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you could get on a, what is it, like a done for you offer with a back end guarantee that was like 25K, we could all make 50K a month.
Yeah.
You know, that's
for
like,
sure. Yeah, for sure. Like, and I don't know if this is like the most appropriate place to say this, and we're kind of getting off topic, but like, dude, money isn't everything, man. I've had seasons where I've grinded and worked 60, 70 hour weeks, 7 days a week, and not had a life outside of work. And I'm just not happy doing that. And like my genuinely, like, my peace and my happiness is more valuable than another 15 grand a month. For me personally, I'm not saying that's the right thing. That's just me and my perspective. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I mean, my principle is that we work so that we can live. We don't live so that we can work. You know?
100%. 100% so those are the stories. Let's dive in a little bit, like, to the three main topics that we want to talk about. The first thing is really just like calendar structure,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so I'll go over this first, and then I'd be interested to hear your insights.
Yeah.
So as far as calendar insights, what's enabled me to make, like, 20K months as an appointment setter was kind of like this strategy that I'll lay out for you is on Mondays, it is the largest, like, longest time to work. Every Monday is like the day that you should expect to work the most amount of hours, because generally this is going to be the day that you can catch up from the stuff from the weekend, like for Friday afternoon, Saturday, Sunday, right? You also want to kind of build momentum for the week. So if you have a really great Monday, that can carry you throughout the whole week, right? Tuesday, regular set of hours. Wednesday, regular set of hours. Thursday, regular set of hours. And then on Friday, what I would typically do is I would work the whole day. And when I get to those last 2, 3, 4 hours of the day, if it was really, really slow and like things were not jamming, I would take those last 3 or 4 hours and I would insert them onto Sunday afternoon. Right. But let's say it was jamming, like there was leads coming in, people were answering, I was getting sets on the board, I would keep on working. Right. Couple of reasons for this is that, on Friday morning, you can set an appointment for a same day set. Most of the time, there's still a couple of slots. You can still set for Saturday. You can still, if any closers do Sunday, you can still get some in on Sunday. But by the time it's Friday afternoon, there is generally Saturdays all the way filled, Sundays all the way filled. And that means you have to set Friday night for Monday, which further out you book these, the less likely they are to show. Right. So, and the second thing I found from this too is that the time of the week where I've seen ads perform at their lowest is typically always 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 p.m. EST on Friday. And like everybody has like a different theory as to why it is. My theory as to why it is that generally, most people's pain points are at their lowest there. Like, are they going out and they're drinking on Friday? That's the day of the week they start drinking. The problems get dissolved in a lot of different.
Yeah, they're like, oh, things aren't that bad. It's the weekend.
Yeah, exactly. So essentially, like, there's less leads coming in during that time, and the people are generally answering the phone less during that time as well.
Yeah.
So it served me better to work Sunday afternoons, except for like whenever I would do like Super Bowl Sunday, that one always sucked. Everybody would always answer watching the game, and I'd be like, "Hey, man, I'm just trying to set you an appointment," But essentially, the other nice thing about that too is that if you look at your speed to response, which speed to response is like by far king, right? I'm sure everybody has heard that before. And what happens is let's say you take off at 5 p.m. on Friday and then you don't come back until Monday morning at 9 a.m. Well, that means there's like a little bit over 48 hours of time where your people are not getting a response and new leads are not getting a call. Versus you take the last couple of hours off of Friday, you insert them on Sunday. When you're calling on Sunday, you're taking off only it's only about 30 to 36 hours between the last time you got in there. So your speed to response is just slightly better. You also have a little bit more bandwidth on a Sunday to get into things like, you don't have your sales team meetings or like one-on-ones. The rest of the team isn't there like distracting you, getting on huddles and stuff. You can just focus on just solely working. Sure. So overall, I found that I would have a better speed to response and I would have a better show ratio if I did that one thing. And then secondarily to this, if you have to choose between working a little bit on Saturday or a little bit on Sunday, Sunday's always better because on Sunday you get to pick up all the slack that came in from Saturday, right? So you get to build you get like a nice little extra pipeline of leads to work on Sunday afternoon than you would if you worked on Saturday and then left that alone on Sunday.
Interesting. Okay. That's solid. Did you guys write that down? Because I would write some of that shit down for sure. Dude, for me, like when I think about structure in my calendar, it's really one, you have to set aside the time to actually do it every week. And like, if there's one thing that you could do is like, just freaking spend 30 minutes a week just planning your week and actually structure shit in your calendar. I have setters come to me, not as much anymore because I've made a lot of trainings about this and I've been a broken record talking about this with the people that work for us for the past 2.5 years. But like if there's white space on your calendar, and then you're also not hitting your numbers, and then you're also complaining about not having enough time in the day, we're not going to have a fun conversation together. Because you're just bad at managing your time. It's not that there's not enough time available, right? So like for me personally, I have 0 white space on my calendar really ever. Like I'll go back. Like just looking at my calendar, like this is a typical week for me. And this might give you a brain aneurysm. If you have a epilepsy, it might kind of flash too loud. No, I'm just kidding. But like everything is color coded. I have shit at the top of my calendar that needs to get done. Like light green is recurring fulfillment, dark green is sales, blue is one-off fulfillment, yellow is internal. Like, and like when I was a rep, my calendar looked like this as well. I knew what every color was. I planned it out super far in advance. Like going into the week, I knew exactly where each minute of my time was going to be spent. So when I teach setters about this, like the first thing that I start with them are like, build in the constraints of your calendar. What are those constraints that you want to have? Is that a 50-hour work week with 8 hours Monday through Friday, and then maybe like a 5-hour Saturday and a 5-hour Sunday? Is it a 10-hour week, 4 days a week? Like, what is that actual constraint? And build that into your calendar first. The second thing you need to do is you actually need to know, like, what is my income goal? And how much activity do I actually need to do on a week-to-week basis based on the conversion and the KPIs to hit that income goal? Then once I know what my weekly activity is, then I can start building it into my calendar. Is it 1,000 dials a week? Okay, well, on a 5-day work week, I need to work 200 dials in. Is that 100 dials Monday before noon, then an hour-long lunch, then 2 hours blocked out for triages, 30 minutes blocked out for admin, and then another 100 dials? Like, how does that actually look? And build it in. And if you just spend that time planning, it really just ends up becoming like an optimization problem. Right? So for me, I would have blocks for dials, let's say Tuesday morning. And then at the end of every day, if I got a set in that Tuesday morning block, I would color code it green. If I did not, I would color code it gray. Then after you do that for 4, 6, 8 weeks, you start seeing patterns on your calendar. Maybe there's 6 Tuesdays in a row where Tuesday morning from 8 to 12, I had gray blocks. Why the fuck would I spend every Tuesday morning doing dials if I'm not getting the results that I want out of that? So maybe Tuesday mornings, I'm going to do car reviews and role plays and dig into Facebook Messenger and pipeline as opposed to just doing straight outbound. So for me, that's how I did it, right? Start with the constraints, then reverse engineer the goals to activity, then build that in, and then use color coding to actually be able to optimize your calendar over time.
Yeah. You want to see something that'll give you like a heart attack when it comes to the color coding?
Yeah. I love heart attacks, dude.
Keep it all peacock, man.
Oh, God, no, dude.
Yeah. I keep it all peacock, and like any of this white space here was all the time that I was getting all of these tasks done that I marked done once I have them done, you know?
Nice. You put the tabs on there.
Yeah. And then I also keep a secondary calendar for like content, right? So like that's typically like my Sunday for the whole day.
Interesting that you do it that way.
Pretty simple.
Yeah, I think, dude, like everybody, you got to find your own thing, right? Like take what you feel most comfortable. I developed this system for me and it works really well for me. You know, Matt has developed his own system and it's worked well for him. And I was on a team meeting, I think it was Monday, not yesterday, but on Monday, and like a setter on there was like, you know, complaint. We're rolling out Dialer IO with Matt Ryder. I'm sure most of you guys know who Matt Ryder is. He has a new SaaS. It's going to help increase answer rates, all this shit. One of the setters on that team is testing out the dialer, and he was like complaining about something with it. And like he was like, yeah, like usually when I'm making dials from Alaware, I could see the tags, and I can't really see that with dialer. I'm like, can't you just pull up Go High Level in another fucking tab and just pull the contact up while it's ringing, and then you can see the tags? He's like, well, yeah. I'm like, dude, that took me 30 seconds to just solve the problem that you were complaining about your results on. So the point of that story is like, I have figured out a way that works for my calendar that I've developed on my own. Matt has figured that out for himself. And the figure it out muscle that Matt and I have, and the top 1% that I see in this industry, they have the figure it out muscle. It's not like a throw my hands up in the arm. It's like a think about it for an hour or two, actually come up with some solutions, execute on those solutions, and then optimize over time. And that muscle is going to make you the more money than any muscle that you have in your career.
Yeah, it's kind of like what is that saying? The best system is the one that you'll actually follow through with and use.
Exactly.
You actually just follow through with it and use it. Like, yeah, that's
100%.
there. It doesn't have to be exactly yours or exactly mine. It just has to be a system you're actually going to follow through with and use.
100%, dude. And like, you might take some parts of mine and figure out another mode of taking like my base or Matt's base or a little bit of both of ours and add in your little spaz, and then it works well for you. But that's 100% it. Like, you need to constantly be looking at how you're operating and the things that you're doing, and then constantly tweaking that, because the thing that's going to get you into a rut and get you into a glass ceiling is just accepting everything for what it is currently. And everything is fluid. The way that you show up every day, your routine, the way you manage your calendar, the way you have conversations with prospects, the way you use the tools that are at your disposal, the way you train, all of that is fluid and none of it is fixed. And if you are not focusing and aware enough to optimize that, then it's 100% on you if you're not getting the results that you want.
Yeah, totally. You know, I like you brought up a fact of something that I hadn't thought about in a long time too, is that when it comes to like that color coding system, as far as like marking sets like green and red and yellow and all that kind of stuff, whether you like, book them or not.
Yeah.
When I was setting for Cole Gordon, I had a month where I had 59 outbound set closes. And what you just described is literally what I used to do. Is when I got a set, I would mark it green in 15 minutes on the calendar where I got those. And I'd put the name of that person that I got at that time. And that's how I figured out the patterns for like when I wasn't going to work, like how you were referencing Tuesday morning. That's exactly what I figured out about Friday night and about people that wanted to get in the remote high ticket space. They don't answer the phone from like 4, 5, 6, and 7 p.m. EST, but they answered on Sunday afternoon, so like that's where that like difference on play came in for me, is like, that's where I would do that same exact strategy where I'd highlight those people green.
Yeah. You got to track, and whether it's color coding or just straight numbers or whatever it might be, you have to do that if you're going to optimize consistently. Cool. So that's like calendar. Do you have anything else that you want to hit on in terms of just like structuring your calendar, time management, anything along that?
No, but I would suggest if anybody has any questions about that, write those down and save it for the end, and we'll go over some questions at the end.
Yes, 100%. Cool. So second thing we want to talk about is really just the interview process. And I know you have a lot of thoughts on this. I know in Setter to Closer last week on my coaching call, like there's a lot of questions around this. Let's start with just like, what do people do wrong on interviews that you've seen? You've interviewed probably hundreds of setters. So have I. What do people do wrong?
Well, first off, you got to mute. You got to mute our guy in here. It's making some echoes in here. So one of the funniest stories that I have from interviews is I had a guy show up riding on a horse and eating a hot dog. Like, yeah, like, and I talk about it in my course a couple of times, and it was the most like bizarre thing. I was like, dude, like, am I like getting like, is this like one of those like TikTok or like YouTube like jokes? Like, am I getting like pranked right now? Like, I could not believe it. And on top of that, he was on his cell phone too, right? So like, a couple of mistakes that I would say people make is like, obvious ones, like showing up late to the interview, right? Like that shows there's like a low value for the job, look of how you're going to value it, right? Showing up on your iPhone, showing up in your car, showing up with Cheeto dust on your face and in a raggedy t-shirt. Like those are all like very like obvious things, but like they need to be stated. Like you should not do those things in an interview. Like generally I just kick those people right out of the interview process. I ran a group interview last week and there was almost 50 people there, and there was about 10 or 15 people that showed up 2 minutes late and later, and I just didn't even let them in. And then from the start, when we started the interview, there were several people that attended on their cell phones. There was 1 or 2 people in their cars. you know, there was one or two people like walking around, like doing things like, one person was eating a sandwich. And I was like, can't you find any better time to do this than the time that we're doing the interview? So like all those things are like very obvious, like don't do those things, right? If you don't do those things, let's say you show up in a quiet area on your computer, stable location, dressed like business casual, you're off to a good start, right? That's like the bottom barrel like necessities, like the bare necessities, whatever you want to call it, right? Like those are things you should be doing minimally.
Yeah.
I mean, like what is like one of the craziest like interview stories you've ever had? I'm curious because I
Well,
think
funnily enough, dude, I closed a 12K PIF while I was eating yesterday. So uh,
that's different. That's definitely different nowadays.
I was just eating fruit though. It wasn't a hot dog, so maybe that was it.
Yeah.
No, dude, I think you're spot on. Like, dude, for me on interviews, guys, I'm gonna be honest, the bar is so fucking low. And like from a setter perspective, we're not very picky. I think for you, Matt, right? Like obviously you ran Springs, you ran RCA, you're running Warrior Babe now. Like your team is smaller and you're on one account that you're like fully into. So you're probably a lot pickier than we are on the agency side of things. We also just have like onboarding systems dialed in, and I have no problem onboarding and offboarding someone in 48 hours if they show up like a dumbass. So for me, I'm literally just looking for someone who like doesn't go below the bar, and the bar is pretty low. So we send email confirmations and text confirmations that tell you to show up on a computer. If you show up on a phone, you literally just can't read and you're dumb. Like you're probably not going to hire you. Second thing is like people show up on a computer, but it looks like they're in their mom's basement that doesn't have electricity, and like you can't see their face.
The back.
And then the third thing is like they just look like a slob. They look like they just rolled out of bed, or it's like they're literally taking the call on their couch or in their bed or in their room, and I can see like their underwear on their pillow. It's like seriously though, dude, like, you know what I'm talking about. So as long as you could just like be above that bar, you'll at least have a chance with me and my team at a setter level. Closers, we're going to be a little bit more strict on for sure. Then beyond that, really, like, how do you separate yourself? One, be able to finish a thought and answer a question in a concise, brief, clear way. Don't ramble for 90 seconds on a question that could have taken you 15 seconds. Because if you're rambling on the interview, what are you going to do when I put you on a sales call? Probably fucking ramble. And if you're rambling, people are not going to buy from you. I promise you. Gravity is power. So that's one thing. Second thing is like actually just prepare some good questions. Like do a little bit of research before, go to the website, check out some testimonials. Maybe go try to find them in the Facebook ad library and look at their funnels. Maybe watch the VSL or even apply for a call. Don't book a call and be an asshole and burn their ad spend, but like maybe fill out the opt-in and fill out the application so you can understand the funnel a little bit more. That would put you in like top 5% from what I've seen. Maybe even top 3% if you are actually doing a little bit of preparation and thinking about what questions to ask.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I even go over that in my training and setter to closer, going over the interview process and being prepared beforehand, going to Meta Ads library, going through their funnel, understanding like what it is that they're selling there. If it's a low ticket funnel, like
Yeah.
the booking VSL, like, you know, what type of funnel it is to begin with. And then even branching out from there, like you go and try to find them on YouTube or like, you know, Google and see if they're running ads on multiple platforms, because if they don't have diversified ad spend, and let's just say they're only running ads on Facebook and they're only running one kind of ad, which is like a straight to booking VSL. Well, that means that the consistency of that company is probably less than if they were running ads on like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Google, like, you know, they were diversified in that way. And then also if they had different forms of lead magnets, like here's a free book, or like, here's this low ticket, low ticket course or something like that. Like we sell a macronutrient guide at Warrior Babe. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Have conversations with those people to see if they want one-on-one coaching, right?
Yeah.
So there's all these kinds of different funnels that these businesses run, but like having some information when you go into the call, like I mostly, what you say is totally right about like being able to answer a question very clearly and precisely with brevity. And then from there, I'm always the most interested in what questions people have about the opportunity.
100%.
Like if they have like one question or like two questions and they're very,
EQ.
yeah, and they're
At
like,
least lower on the bar, like their chances are lower.
totally. And if it's like, a situation where it's like, their questions are just like very low level, a lot of times I'll drop them a doc. I can actually drop you guys this doc right now on this call too, is an interview prep doc, because there is a lot of companies out there in the space that are looking to hire setters specifically, and they're not in a place yet where they should be hiring appointment setters,
Yeah.
And so you kind of have to be able to distinguish, especially when you're brand new, like which companies should you actually work for and which ones should you not? And so like if someone asks me some questions that I'm like, hey, look, I know I'm not going to be able to bring this person onto the team. I'll simply give them as much coaching as I can for the rest of the call, give them a couple of resources, and then I go on to my next call from there. But essentially, like, I love it if someone comes on and they're like, hey, I watched the funnel. I love what you guys are doing. I was really impressed that the VSL was 26 minutes long. That was crazy. I can't believe that. Like, normally
Yeah.
it wasn't that long. I'm like, oh, you know a thing or two about the space. Like there's like several things in that question that I can hear, that I can see your depth and knowledge of the industry, which tells me you've been doing this for a little bit and your understanding is at a high level, rather than, yeah, like I just want to know what you're looking for out of someone you want to hire. And then like you answer that question, they're like, yeah, that's all I want to know. I'm like, are you sure? And I'm like,
Yeah. I'm like, you don't have any other questions?
yeah. And my heart breaks for those people sometimes, because I'm like, dang, this person doesn't know that they could step into an interview with a company that shouldn't be hiring someone right now and then get taken advantage of by that company.
Yeah.
And so that always is like very heartbreaking. So I'm an extreme advocate for appointment setters when it comes to that, because it's very easily, you can fall into that trap like very easily. Let
For
me
sure. Yeah.
let me drop that doc in the chat. It's just like kind of a brief overview. There's some edits and modifications that I got to make to this doc, but this is like a really good starting line. If you're new to the industry and you have no idea as far as
Nice.
process, I would grab that doc out of the chat, because there's a couple questions there that you can ask to make sure you understand whether a company has enough going on to support you in the income that you're looking to make within that company.
Yeah.
Just because they say OTE, 6 to 12K doesn't mean that everybody there is actually making 6 to 12K, right? So you got to do your due diligence.
100%. And dude, one thing for me, I don't know if you do this, like I will sometimes even just start an interview because I'm busy, you're busy. Like I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off when I'm on a lot of times. Like I'll have 15 minutes and I'll literally just be like, so before like I dive in and ask questions about you, like I want to make sure that this is a fit for you. So what questions do you have for me?
Mm-hmm.
And if in the first like 2 to 5 minutes they ask a bunch of shitty questions or don't ask any, I just move on. Like I don't even get to know them because I know that it's probably a bad fit.
No. Yeah, and you're like, between all like the recruiting and the staffing you do, it's like, man, like there's so many people that you're like trying to serve within a day's time, that it's like if someone's not ready, you line them up with an interview with a business, like, that's just going to be like you're going to be recycling over and over and over and over again, So it's just like it just defeats the time served for everybody involved there.
100%. Yeah. All right, cool. So I think that was good on the interview process. We have one more topic and then we'll open up for questions. I do want to be like, I know we can go over a little bit, Matt, but I want to make sure that we at least get to questions before the top of the hour so people can ask some. Last thing we want to talk about is just like how to practice.
Yeah.
And we put how to practice like a future closer, but like really just how to practice like a professional. Like what does that look like? What do you like what are your top 2 to 4 practice tips for people in this industry?
Yeah. It specifically is two things, right? There's two things that you want to focus on as an appointment setter to get you prepared to be a closer and at the same time make you elite in appointment setting. And the first one is your discovery process. That, like, for instance, like every single day as an appointment setter, you get to have tons of conversations with all the leads coming in. Let's just say you're getting like 10 to 15 conversations each day. You're getting to practice the discovery process over and over and over. And you only have 5 to maybe max 10 minutes to do this. So your discovery process has to be perfect, right? It has to be efficient. It has to be, you have to be like very careful and diligent with your time. And so if you can become elite at doing your discovery process as a setter, well, when you go into a closer role, you might only have 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 or 7 maximum in a day at bats with going through that discovery process. So even if you started out as a closer, you know, and you skip setting altogether, your skill level with the discovery process is far beneath an appointment setter's. And generally, most of the time, the sale is done in the discovery process is what I found. Now that it does switch up a little bit from offer to offer, but generally most of the time the sale is in the discovery. And so if you can become elite at doing a 5 to 10 minute discovery, well, when you become a closer, you're going to get them for 20 whole minutes of discovery, right? So you're going to be able to go through at an elite level 20 minutes of discovery versus, you know, closers that have never had that opportunity to practice that muscle over and over and over again, right? So that's the first thing, is become elite at the discovery process. The second piece is if you become elite at building up a follow-up system. And I go over a 3-prong follow-up system for appointment setters. There's 3 different specific ways you want to do that. But essentially, if you can become elite at following up with people when you're getting like 30, 40, 50 leads a day, and you can be a beast at that, and you have a process and a system around being able to follow up with those leads and actually take care of all of them in an organized manner where you're not losing any, nobody slipping between the cracks. Well, when you're a closer, you're probably only going to get 3, 4, maybe 5 or 6 leads a day. So your follow-up system is going to be mega overkill for when you step into a closer role. So essentially 2 things you can do right now today as an appointment setter to practice to be better as a closer is just your follow-up systems, making sure there's all dialed in and tuned in. And I've got a couple of different resources I could give you guys on getting better at that. And then secondarily, the discovery process is just crushing it. If you can do those 2 things, when you step into a closing role, having a really solid discovery and then having the best follow-up on the team, generally I've seen setters that I've worked with and taught them these things end up being the best closers on the team. And these are the things that I focused on when I was a setter moving into closer roles. And every single time I always ended up being like the top closer on the team, just generally because I was working on perfecting the discovery and the follow-up at all times. You know, like you can be a beast at objection handling. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't focus and like, you know, work and practice at objection handling and stuff, but generally, you know, you don't have as many objections if you do as good of a discovery. If you unearth the objections in the discovery part of the call before they even become an objection.
I think you're handling objections in the discovery, right?
Yeah.
Not like directly head on, but like you're pre-framing and you're peeling back those layers in the discovery, and you're at least opening up the loop and ideally closing it mostly in the discovery.
Yes.
If you keep it wide open and then you get banged by it at the end of the pitch or whatever it might be after you know, and offer to set them, then you're going to have a hard time. But dude, I 100% agree with that. It's funny. We kind of both interpreted these pillars differently. So my interpretation of how to practice kind of came back to like data, right? Like the things that I was focused on practicing were like the things that I was seeing drop off in my numbers. So kind of going back to the calendar management, I always thought of like, what's my monthly income goal? I reverse engineered the activity that I needed to do that. Then I knew, okay, if I needed to make 4,000 dials this month to get 800 people to pick up the phone, to make 100 sets, to get 80 of them to show up, and to get 20 of them to close, that would mean I was making 10K that month. And if I was like, it was very crystal clear in terms of the data that needed to happen. So the first thing that I was looking at is like, the activity is the top of the funnel. Did I do that or did I not do that this week? Or really the answer I was asking is, if I want to make 20 sets close in a month, did I get 5 this week? If I got 5 this week, then I was going directly to top of funnel and seeing if I did my activity numbers. If I got the result and I did my activity, I was probably just like going on steady. Like I knew like I was on a right track and things were good. If I missed my results, the first thing that I was looking at is, did I hit my activity? If I didn't hit my activity, I didn't even look downstream. The answer was literally just like, I'm not working hard enough. I need to do more. right? Because it's either more or better. And if you're not doing your activity, the answer is more. So I would go into next week making sure that I was 100% committed to doing that activity. If I didn't get the results that I wanted and I hit the activity, then I was looking along my funnel. Was it an answer rate problem? Was it a conversation rate problem? Was it a set rate problem? Was it a show rate problem? Or was it a close rate problem? And I would figure out of those 5 main drop-offs in my process, where was the biggest delta? Did I need a 25% close rate week over week and I got a 16% close rate? Well, then that means I was 40% off. It was a 40% difference in what I needed to be at. So what I was doing is I was looking at all of my calls that showed up that week with closers and did not close. Right. And I would audit those. I'd be like, damn, I had fucking 18 calls show up this week that didn't close. 9 of them were financial objections. So the only thing that I was focused on going into the next week was better pre-framing and better financial qualification in my discovery. Right. Or if it was like 12 of them were partner objections, then I was going to work that into my discovery, discovery conversation the following week. If it wasn't a close rate problem and maybe it was a show rate problem, well, I was reviewing the no-shows and I was figuring out why the fuck weren't people showing up. If it was an answer rate problem where my answer rate needed to be 20% week over week, but my answer rate was only 8%, that's a huge difference. So I knew like this week I need to focus on my answer rate, and that's going to come down to, am I double dialing every lead? Is my number marked as spam? Am I practicing speed to lead on everything? Am I hitting them through text, email, multiple phone calls to make sure that my answer rate was going up? So like, to me, where I was focusing my practice always came back to auditing the data. And the data doesn't mean anything if you don't have a plan. You have to have a plan, then you have to have what actually happened, and then you need to know where the difference is in the plan from what actually happened. And that's where I would focus my time.
Yeah, it's kind of like what's tracked and measured is improved.
100%.
Very high situational awareness, it sounds like, too. Like, so you're even a step deeper. Like, I guess, could you speak on like situational awareness? Because you have to be situationally aware before you could even start tracking those things. So like, how was your situational awareness like so high at that point?
I mean, Josh was a really good manager for me, and Josh poured into me, and Peyton Welch did as well. And I got onto a good offer that had a great culture and really knew their shit. And I think I've done a good job like training our people on that. But dude, once a week, I was spending 1 to 2 hours doing an end of week review. I was looking at my numbers, right? And like once a month, I was doing an end of month review and planning out the next month. Then every week, week over week, I knew what I needed to hit that week. And if I didn't hit it, I was auditing why. So I just spent the time diving into it. I didn't need a fucking AI tool to tell me what to do. I literally used a pad and paper to audit my pipeline back in the day.
Yeah.
And I was willing to do that. And like, I got the results out of it. Now, is that like the most efficient way to do it? Probably not. Like if I was a full-time producer now, I probably would try to hack some sort of AI system. But like, this was in the dark ages 5 years ago before ChatGPT, bro. Like, all I had was a Google Doc back then, brother.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
But I just spent the time doing it. Like I spent the time being intentional and planning and auditing. And I sucked at it at first and I got better at it. But week over week, every single week, I did not miss an end of week review. I did not miss an end of month review. I'd send it to my manager. They would give me feedback on it and they would help me stay on track if I had blind spots.
Yeah.
So I was kind of, I just put the time in, honestly. Like it's hard to avoid the work. To a certain extent, you just have to do it. So I hope that was helpful for everybody. I think we have time for a couple questions here. Should we open it up? Hit it, Mustafa. Jump on. Talk to us, pal.
Appreciate you guys doing the training, by the way.
Yeah,
so
man.
thank you. First off.
Thanks for jumping on.
Secondly, the problem solving makes sense. So you have your pipeline, you have where the lowest hanging fruit, you go and fix it. So how do you actually fix the discovery? So let's say that, for example, for me, the biggest thing I'm facing right now is like my conversation's a little bit too long. I'm not settled, right? So like, how do you go about fixing that specifically for example.
Good question. You want to hit it or you want me to, Matt?
Yeah, I'm curious why you say your conversation is too long to begin with.
Well, so I can sometimes go into like the 20, 25, 30 minutes where I'm pre-handling objections about cost, about time, and now is not a good time, right? For sets that I believe otherwise, aside from that one objection, would be a good set. So then I'm faced with kind of making a decision whether or not to pursue that set, because at minute maybe 12, I could say, well, I mean, you do you, and we can just hop off. Or I could try and pre-handle the objection, get the person to go onto the next call, and at that point, maybe close. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, dude, if your calls are going 30 minutes long, you might as well just try to call them yourself, right? Like that's like a really long call. So here's the thing is that there's a healthy level of tension, and you might have seen a healthy level of tension before with like, like TV episodes or like TV show seasons, right? Like, like the end of a season of like, like Game of Thrones or like Lost, there'd be like this really epic cliffhanger at the end of the season, and there'd be all this tension built up behind it. And then it'd be like, boom, end of episode. You've got to wait a year before you can watch the episode and figure out the answers to what happens next.
Yep.
Right. It's the same way in the set calls. So the longer that you go with answering questions, giving them information, battling with them on like trying to get them onto the call with the closer, there is more of a feeling of like, I feel like I fully understand and I've identified this. And that essentially is going to take down the person's interest in what this thing is, right? So the more you answer, the more questions you answer, the less likely they are to even show up to that next call. So it's okay if you get to the 12, 15-minute mark and there's like a level of tension. They have stuff they want to ask. And you're like, hey, look, those are really great questions. And I see why you would think that. That's the exact reason why we give people meetings with our coaches, our specialists, our mentors. So let's get you on a meeting with them so they can walk you through what that looks like for the other people that we've helped do X, Y, and Z in your position. Would you be against a conversation like that? And then just get them onto the counter to get those questions answered. Because really the timing and the cost are the two primary objections you should be handling in that meeting as an appointment setter. But if your calls are like going to 20 and 30 minutes, that's like, might as well just shoot for it.
Well, to add on top of that, they're not asking as many questions. They're essentially saying, no, I don't think I'm ready to take that step. And that's where before that, some things can come up. You know how someone might mention something that makes you like aware that if I tell this guy, let's hop on a meet, he'll probably tell me I can't afford it. And you see that before you go for the CTA, hey man, let's hop on a call, right? So that's where sometimes I go into trying to pre-handle that objection and reframe their mind, hey man, like you're not making as much money because you don't have the skills, right? So that's the conversation we're having, and that's where it can get a little bit too long.
So I've thought for you. First thing I would want to do is I would want to audit every single conversation that you've had over the past week that you offered a set to, but they did not accept.
Okay.
What is the specific reason? Like if you had to put one reason, is it because you're just offering people sets that don't have money, but you're still swinging at the pitch?
If I had to say the one biggest reason is timing. That's like the recurring thing.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
Timing.
When you feel like there's potentially a timing issue and you see that red flag come up in the conversation, are you addressing it head on, or are you letting it linger and you're driving past it, knowing that you're still going to pitch the set and that red flag is going to come up later?
So if that comes up, what I would do is depending on how it comes up, I would address it right then and there, depending on whether I got the situation stage done or not. So if I have the situation stage and I'm in problem awareness, I would address it right then and there. If not, then I want to have more information before I try to address it, just so I understand where they're at.
Okay, so that's good that you're addressing it head on. So for me, there's two levels of timing issues. Like one is like they physically do not have the time available, right? The other issue with timing that I've seen at least is like the length of time that they want the outcome is just too far away, so they're not going to make the time right now, right? What do you sell?
Sales training. I work for 7th level.
Oh, okay. Perfect. So
Yeah,
these guys have a clear outcome. What is the outcome
right.
that they
More money, less
more
time.
money? Okay. Typically, when you get that income goal, what I'm going to try to define that specifically is when do they want to hit that income? Best case scenario, when do you want to be there? Okay, dude, you're making 5K a month now. You want to get to 15.
Okay.
Best case scenario, if you could wave a magic wand, don't say ASAP because we know that there has to be a gap here, but like, when do you want to get there?
Okay.
6 months? Okay, cool. You got to get to work fucking today because you need to triple your income in 6 months.
Right.
And I'm going to get that leverage from the gap that they've given me in the timeline. But if he's like, if I was making 8K by the end of 2027, I'd be happy. Guess
Yeah.
there's not enough, there's not a big enough gap there income wise with a short enough time period.
Right.
Does that make sense? So I don't
Yeah,
have
it does make sense. It does make sense. It's because my process is a little bit different, but now that you've added the time component to it when you're asking questions, there's a reason why I can push for like or have a conversation around the gap. Okay, that
And
makes sense.
dude, if they tell me I want to make 8K a month and I'm at 5 right now and I'm good doing that a year and a half down the road, what are you going to do?
Yeah, it's just I mean, yeah.
I'm going to challenge. No, I'm going to challenge them. Be like, dude, why only 8K a month? Like,
What's
bro,
going
you
on
could
here?
do so much better. And I'm kind of going to gas them up a little bit.
Right.
And I'm going to increase their confidence level in what's actually possible.
Right.
I'm not going to oversell them on it, but I'm going to figure out why that like limiting belief and that doubt is there in terms of how fast they can increase their income.
Okay.
Now, if they don't buy into that and I can't get them to shorten the gap in the time frame, then dude, there's probably just not enough urgency there and you shouldn't be offering the set anyway.
Yeah. 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 So it really comes down to the discovery part of the process where you can either gauge is there a big enough need for them to take action or not.
100%.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
100%. Good
Super.
question, dude. Good question.
Thank you.
Ollie, what you got, bro?
Yeah, my question was more so around landing offers, and where to find them specifically. So, how does one basically efficiently and effectively find A plus offers? Because obviously there's so much bullshit in the space.
Define A plus offer. What does that mean for you?
An offer where a seller could, for me personally, make more than 10K a month. So, ideally, if they have a team of 5, 6 closers, 2, 3 setters, probably 1 million plus a month cash collected as a company.
So there's a few components. One is like price point of the offer, dude. Chances of you making 10K a month in a setter role with 5% commissions and a $1,500 base pay on a 3K offer is probably pretty low. You know, like when I was a setter making 10, 12, 15 pretty consistently, like we had a 10K offer and we had a 30K offer. My average order value was like 15. So when I was doing 20 units a month, which is more than most setters do today, at least from what I like the average, it's greater than the average at least. Like I was doing like 250 to 300K a month in revenue and I was able to earn that. So like I would look at price point. That's the first thing. Second thing is like, dude, post price point, you just need to look at like the KPIs of the offer of like.
No, my apologies for cutting you off. My question is not more so around how you spot an A plus offer. It's more so how you find an A plus offer. Where do you find those? Because I'm consistently right now doing 300K months as a setter, right? But how do you find A plus offers? Because I'm trying to grow my network right now off A plus offers, right? But how do you find those?
How much commissions are you making on the 300K?
More than 10.
And your goal is 10?
No, my goal is 20. But I'm asking about offers where you can make more than 10.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I think like I don't know, man. You gotta hunt and you probably need to block out 5 to 8 hours a week of like hunting. I would probably go into the Facebook ad library, try to find some gurus, click on the ads, directly outreach to them, see if you can find anybody that already sells for those guys. LinkedIn every single person on that team that you can fucking think of. There's good things like that. Another angle is like, dude, go on to like a Cole Gordon website and look at his testimonials of offers. Most of those are probably going to be pretty good. You could probably go on to like ClickFunnels testimonials for Inner Circle and see who's on there. What are the other big gurus that are like coaching the businesses that you want to work for? Go identify those and do direct outreach, but you probably just need to block out 3 to 5 hours a week at least to be doing that.
Fair.
You
The
know,
only thing I've come up with is just, leveraging your network. That's pretty much it.
that too. I mean, you got to talk to people every day, and it's like I think you just build that up over time. It's not a $1 in, $5 out type of thing like ads.
Yeah.
You know what
Also,
I'm saying?
another thing too, you might want to adjust your mindset on that I heard you say is that, an offer doing more than $1 million a month that you can make more than 10K a month. Well, like I know of several appointment setters that are only one appointment setters on the team, or there's only 2 setters on the team and they make tremendous amount of money. Like there's a crypto offer that I know of where there's only 2 setters on the team and both of those setters made 30K in a single month back in May. So it's like it doesn't necessarily matter how much it does matter to an extent the revenue of the company, but it matters more so the total amount of setters to revenue of the company. That's more so what matters. Because if they're doing $1 million a month, but they have 50 setters, then nobody's making money. And who cares if the company's doing $1 million a month if they have 50 setters? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Good question. Guys, so I don't know if you've seen, Matt has put together a fucking incredible program. It's called Saturday Closer. It's a monthly membership. I want him to talk about that. I'm involved with it. But Matt, give everybody a rundown of this and then like tell them how they can be involved, tell them the value they'll get out of it. And let's just do a quick overview of that while we're here.
Yeah, totally, man. So I essentially I got tired of watching like so many common issues happen for appointment setters, like all the common pitfalls of like working for a company where they don't have the leads, or you're newer to the space, you don't know how to step on and do the right things, you don't know how to set up your calendar. There's so many principles to doing this role, and there's not enough training or knowledge around how to actually perform at a high level. And it's easy. If you know what you're doing, you could step in and make just as much as an appointment setter than the closers do on a team. And it's just a knowledge gap most of the time is what I found. And so essentially I set up setter to closer in a way to where it can be that buffer for appointment setters between appointment setters and business owners, because there is a big gap there in discrepancy as far as business owners maybe too new and not understanding when they should be hiring appointment setters. Like for instance, anybody right now in this room could go start a digital marketing agency or a coaching business. Does that mean you're going to be a good business owner just because you started it? No. That's not what that means. Just because you can start one doesn't make you a good business owner, right? And so typically it's good to have knowledge to understand what's the difference between a good and a bad opportunity, And so I go into really deep detail in that course over, sourcing a gig, identifying good roles from bad roles, and then how to optimize the most on a good opportunity to get the most out of it. So essentially everything that I've learned over the last 7 years regarding appointment setting is in there on how to make like 20K months as a setter. I also got every single appointment setter, coach, manager, trainer, recruiter, like involved with that group as well. So I think we're up to like 13 live group coaching calls a week now inside of there across all time zones. The course is getting up close to 20 hours now with like a bunch of resources. I could give you guys like a quick overview too inside of the group as far as what it looks like, So there's like a 10-day challenge when you get in here. I offer everybody a free bonus. We've got this win shares tab. We have 90 people in here so far, and we've only been active now for 2 weeks. And so far we've helped a lot of people get jobs already. And as far as like the group goes, guys, like being a part of a community, I would say is really nice, because then you get to vet opportunities against your own, right? And like what you're doing. So as far as like the course material and all this stuff goes, obviously I'm hitting on all the key points and stuff. And there's a couple of things that I specifically train on that I would say are taboo and that like other trainers like wouldn't go near, but like I'm totally not scared of that kind of stuff. So kind of break the fifth wall on a couple of these trainings in here, but I love it. It's been like a program that I've worked on for the past year before just releasing 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah, guys, I think like I've personally thought about doing setter programs myself. I've never done it. Matt approached me a couple months ago to be involved with this. It was like an absolute no-brainer, hell yes for me. Like there is 13 incredible coaches in there. There's 2 places where you can get access to me or Matt for training. It's either Insider to Closer or it's working on one of our teams. I'm personally only involved with 2 teams at Win It Sales. My managers run the other 6 teams that we manage. Matt is involved with 1 team. So like, is it possible to get on one of our teams? Sure it is. But an easier way to get access to us on a consistent basis, if you found value here today and feel like spending more time with us would help you up-level your game, is to just join. It's $49 a month. It is extremely cheap. It's bumping up to $74 on Sunday. I think it's what, $360 for the year if you pay for a year up front. Yeah, Matt.
It's 365, I believe. So it's like 40% off if you buy it for the year.
The $1 a day if you pay up front for a year. Even at $49 a month, that's $600 a year. If you do not make more than $600 in commissions from being in there and actually showing up, I will personally admit that I've failed in the industry and I will quit and go work at McDonald's. I don't know about you, Matt, but it's a stupid no-brainer. Again, I've been asked and I've thought about creating my own program selling to setters. I don't sell anything to salespeople directly. This is the only thing that I've ever been involved with that actually sells to salespeople directly. I like selling to businesses. But I think for the price and the value that you're getting out of this and the support that you're going to get into it, it's an absolute fucking no-brainer. So if you enjoyed this, if you like this, if you got some value and you got $49 a month to spare, I'm not going to sit here and get fucked by the FTC and say, I guarantee you will get a return on investment, but I would be absolutely shocked and I would poop my pants if you did not over the next 12 months. So I don't know if you have any additional thoughts on that, Matt, but I'm going to drop the link in the chat for you guys. There's a quick video to watch from Matt if you guys want to. Would love to have all of you guys in there. Again, there's 2 places to get access to us. It's either on our teams or in Setter to Closer. And that's it. Not to brag, but I don't think you're going to find 2 guys that have done more revenue or managed more setter revenue over the 4 or 5 year careers that we have than us. So, any other thoughts, Matt?
No, man, you just about said it all. I don't want to get any FTC claims either, but I would definitely poop my pants if you like the knowledge that I put inside of this course. If you weren't able to get at least 1 more sale in the course of a year, I would shut the business down because it'd be a waste of everybody's time. But just from my experience, like the things that if you're getting on the phone and you're selling people coaching, generally it's a good thing to be buying something for yourself in this avenue too, because if you're advocating to somebody else to be buying information, but you're not willing to buy information for yourself, it's a little hypocritical. And so that's also why I made this $49, right? Which just so everybody knows, we are bumping the price up this Sunday at 6 p.m. So it's just going to go up to 74. It's not like the sky is falling. It's going to be 10K in a day or 2 or anything like that. But I am going to bump it up to $79 a month on Saturday.
Yeah, sweet. I do think, like, if you guys want to stick around, I think one more person had their hand raised. We could dive into one more question, and then like I have a hard stop in 22 minutes here, but I can go up until the 22-minute mark if you guys want to. What's up, Hamza?
Yeah, hey guys. No, my question was kind of lingering on like a previous loop about like, call length and time length, and I just wanted to get your perspective on things like for me, like I'm an inbound triage setter and I manage a team as well. One thing that I fall prey to, and I mean it served me, but I just wanted to get like a second opinion on it, is like my calls can go 20 to 25 minutes, but these are inbound, so there's a little more leverage.
Sure.
And a lot of that kind of involves like pre-handling, making sure the key concerns are raised, and we obviously have to pre-qualify our leads for like they should have 20 to 30K liquid before we can push them on. I guess, are there circumstances in your guys' view where relatively longer calls for a setter are justified depending on circumstance? Or is it like it should just ideally be 15 cap?
So I'm going to contradict Matt here because if there isn't different opinions, then we're probably all just walking on eggshells anyway. But bro, I personally think that call time is a little bit of a vanity metric. You want to know what I care about? Cash in the door. And if me personally, as a skilled setter with discernment, who has a decision-making capability and has a pretty good tuned gut feels like it makes sense to have a 35-minute conversation on a triage, because I think that's going to put the person in the best possible position to close and ultimately get what they want and me get a point on the board and get cash in the door for the company, then I'm going to have the 35-minute conversation.
Oh.
But the key is like, dude, you need to develop your gut up to that level to know when to make those decisions.
Yeah.
A less advanced, more newbie type of guy, I want them to be a lot more process driven, guy or gal. I want them to be more process driven, and I want them to follow the process and not veer too far out of that. Over time, you can learn how to veer out of the playbook, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Just be aware that you're doing it. And then also like just have the awareness and set aside time to audit whether or not you're getting too far off track. But like at the end of the day, the thing that matters most in sales is results. If you're going off track and getting results, who gives a fuck?
Yeah, big time. I was there was a time like a few months back where I was falling into the trap of like over explaining things and just getting lost in my own head, and like that reflected in the numbers. But like now, it's like an 88% show rate, like 200K cash collected. So like the numbers are good, like a mini
There
flip.
you go.
There, it's like I'm like that's all I need to see, and that's all the offer owner cares about. So
Exactly, bro.
I was like, who gives a fuck, right? But like, yeah, I'm
who
just curious.
gives a shit if you are getting the results and it's outside of the process? Maybe that is like a, dude, what if it is optimal to have a 23-minute conversation instead of a 14-minute conversation like the script says?
Yeah.
Is that not? Go ahead, man.
My 2 cents on that is that's why I like to say it's more of a principle, not a rule, because the principle is like, yeah, like most of your conversations should be about 10 or 15 minutes. Now, my longest ever set was 45 minutes. Right?
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too, dude.
Yeah.
Same,
So like,
same.
if it's somebody
And
that
she closed. One call closed, Piff.
Yep, same.
It was
So
worth it.
yeah. So sometimes there are those exceptions where you'll be on the phone with someone and it does end up being that long. But generally, the other reason why I say that it's a good principle to stick to about 15 minutes is because, you can only catch one rabbit at a time, right? So essentially, if you stay on with someone for 45 minutes, then that could have stifled the fact that you maybe could have gotten 3 sets during that time versus just one, right? So it's also dependent on your day too. Like, let's say you're at like 7, 8, 9 sets for the day, and like this conversation is going nowhere and you're at 20, 30-minute mark. Well, then yeah, probably cut bait and move on. But let's say you're only at 1 set for the day or 2 set for the day, and you have a feeling that you can get this person over the line. Stay on with that person and get them over the line, right? Like, don't end the day with like 1 or 2 sets. Like, as long, if that contingency was just stay on with this person longer to get them over the line, then yeah, do it. But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, for sure. And I think again, if you're a newbie, like Hamza has been around the block, like I've seen your name on Facebook a lot. I don't know if we've ever interacted directly or spoken on a call.
There's a funny story there, but I can share after.
We'll share it after, but like if you're newer, follow the process of someone that you actually trust. Like now, if your manager is just kind of a dumbass and probably get a new offer anyway, or if the process doesn't make sense, then like you don't necessarily need to follow. But it's like if there is a validated setter on your offer that followed the process and is getting the results that you like are decent from just following the process, do that first. And then once you get to that baseline level, then you can work on experimenting and doing more advanced stuff. Good question though, bro. Any other questions? Anybody have anything else? We got, what's up, Kevin? Hit us with it, dude.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, so far for that, the Matthew as well. So, I wanted to ask, so I've done both closing and also appointment setting in the past. I found that there was one role I did for 3 months. I made 90 appointments, and that was on events. There was another role that I did on support an IT technology company, and I did a lot less than that, maybe about only 20. There was such a long sales cycle. So my question, so at the moment I'm running my own business and I've got some spare time. I want to make some extra cash. So my question is, should I focus more on looking for inbound or outbound appointment center roles? What's from your experience, what is the, I think
What do
where I
you
should start.
want? What's like the most important
So
thing?
I just want something that makes extra bit of cash. I don't mind inbound and outbound. I've done
How much
both.
is an extra bit of cash? What does that mean specifically?
So ideally, $4,000 a month Australian dollars. So that'll
Okay.
be probably half US.
Oh, I
So,
thought that was like $10 US. No, I'm just kidding.
oh, is it? Sorry, yeah,
I'm just
sorry.
fucking. I'm joking. You do.
Okay.
Okay, so like 2K US.
Yes, something like that.
I don't know if inbound or outbound is the right question to be asking. You could make that amount of money on both of those roles.
Hmm.
Now, you did say like a little bit of extra money. Are you insinuating that this is a side gig for you?
Yes, so I teach robotics at the moment at
Okay,
primary school with
nice.
Lego and tablets and all that. So
Yeah,
so in Australian hours from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. I've got free time. However, if I was to do appointment setting in US times, that means I'll work, I suppose, in a night shift. So
sure.
I've got more time. So I just got to work out a schedule for that.
Yeah, I would get clear on the schedule, right? I think 9 to 1. Let's say that's 25 hours a week. Can you do weekends as well?
Yes, possible.
So you could rip 30 to 40 hour weeks, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let's break down 30-hour weeks at 2K a month. That's $500 a week. Dude, you legit need to find a role where you're making a realized hourly rate of like $17 an hour. You
Hmm.
could do that on inbound or outbound.
Okay.
Now, if you think about like, I would also kind of just go back to the insight I was giving Ollie, like do some math because like on a 3K offer, it's gonna be a lot harder to get there than on a 12K offer.
Yeah.
On a 12K offer that pays 5%, that's $600 a sale. You need to make 4 closed sets a month to hit your
Hmm.
income goals. You could definitely do that in 25 hours a week if you have skills and there's decent leads and an okay process. At a 3K a month or 3K offer with 3%, you're making $90 a sale. You need to do
Yes.
20 sales to get there. Is that doable? Maybe, but I don't know the KPIs of the company. So, like, I don't know if inbound or outbound is the right question, dude. It's
Okay.
what formula and what KPIs and what daily KPIs does that fit into your time constraints? And if you hit those KPIs every day within your time constraints, is the price point high enough for you to get the result that you want?
Okay.
That is the formula that you need to figure out.
Okay.
Does that
Thanks
help?
for the tip. Yeah. Thanks for the tip. Thank you.
Also,
Cool.
Kevin, do you know how to find high ticket businesses based out of Australia? So then you can put
Uh,
that 9 to 1.
I've just been using a platform called sig.com, and that's a popular platform
So
in
something to
Australia.
check out is if you go to Meta Ads Library, you just Google Meta Ads Library and you go
Hmm.
here. This is how I helped, several hundred students that I worked with from Australia find roles is literally just go here and you can go Australia and then what's a high ticket offer of something you'd be like interested in personally?
I've done property. I've done events, like sponsorship events, and I've done some technology.
Let's just see what
So
happens.
I'm open. I'm
1,000.
open to yeah.
Well, if you just type in the word just events, which is going to be a very broad search, there's 20,000 results launched just in the month of April. And these are all getting run in the Australian time zone, like based on
Okay.
like ad targeting to Australia. So like you could go through here and find a business that's doing something in the high ticket space in Australia specifically. Now, get more specific than just the word events, but I mean, like, let me give you this too. If you go inside of my group, I'll also just give you this doc in the chat just in case. But you could take this. This is like a list of like 300 different niches in the high ticket space. And then you could search any one of these niches inside of the meta ads library and find like, anything that you'd be interested on this doc. You could then search it inside of the meta ads library and you could find something on it. Like, for instance, a popular one is going to be something like life coaching, I'm sure. Let's see what that is. Yeah, 4,000 results just for April. The reason why I like this method specifically is because you're going to know that the company is going to have inbound leads through ad spend because they're running ads. And like this is how you can pursue them from here. Is like you'd go onto their website page, you'd see like how many likes they got, how many people were following, you could see how big it was, and like vet the opportunity before you even tried reaching out to them to get hired by them.
Okay, thank you. How do you spell that? Is a meta ad, did you say? META.
Yeah, here, I'll drop you the link to Meta Ads as well. It's just Meta Ads Library. Meta, oh my God.
Bro, also go follow those 5 guys on Facebook. They're like Patrick and Orlando and James are all Aussie guys. Matt is too. I don't think Daniel's Aussie. He is Colombian, but he lives in the Middle East, but he's very connected to high ticket Aussie. So like if you follow those 5 guys, tell them that Nick told you to reach out. Ask them if they have any setter roles that they're looking to fill. You'll at least be able to land an interview with them.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Thanks,
Yeah.
Nick.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nick.
Orlando
Thanks, Matthew. Thanks,
Yeah.
Matthew. Thanks,
Yeah. Thanks for the question, bro.
Okay.
Thanks for hopping on
Thank
too.
you. Thank you.
All right, folks. Anything else?
Yeah, good to go.
Sweet. Dude, well, I appreciate you guys jumping on. I hope you got some value out of this. Would love to see you in setter to closer. If you guys have any questions that you want to ask us privately, like hit me up or hit Matt up just on Facebook. Yeah, dude, you like that? I'm about to catch a Pokemon. But dude, for real, like there is not a lot of places that you can get access to us. Setter to closer is one of those. It is literally $49 a month. I think it's silly to not join. No hard pitch beyond that, but you will get value out of it. And we'd love to see you in it. And if you guys need anything, let us know. Any final words of wisdom, Matthew?
Just the one from the beginning, you know, we work so that we can live, we don't live so that we can work.
100%.
And to be honest, I'll drop this last time too. If we got to have John handle you for $49, you probably shouldn't jump in.
Yeah.
Right on, Crow.
Yeah. All he needs 150% discount. Dude's making 10K a month. But no, really appreciate you guys jumping on. If you guys need anything, reach out. Another soft plug. If you guys are not in my pipeline for roles we're constantly placing, it's just win@sales.com. So at least go fill that first form and you'll get on my email list and you'll get my weekly emails that we're blasting out for the roles that we've opened. So thanks for your guys' time. We'll see you inside our closer. Peace.
Appreciate y'all.
Appreciate you guys.
Bye.